Hey, Modern Commerce, welcome back. You're here as always with Casey and John. We're going to be taking you through another awesome interview today. We're continuing on with our How to Build a Brand series. John's going to let us know how he's doing, first of all, and then introduce us to our guest today.
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. I am excited to have our guests today. Just, a couple of fun guys who, that's what it's all about. We just want to, do some good work and have fun while we're doing it. But they've built an amazing brand. They have invented the perfect jean. So we have Zach Arnold and Ovadia Labaton, aka Khaki Carl is Dead, joining us from the perfect jean. How are you doing today, boys?
Doing well.
What's up? All good.
Cool. Yeah. So, kind of continuing with our building a niche brand or building a brand podcast series, talking about how we build apparel brands. And there's a couple different types of apparel brands that we'll get into. But before we get into that, tell us, give us the rundown on Perfect Jean. Why should I wear them? What's the background? How did it start? How did you guys get into this? Like, why did you decide to do this?
Yeah, sounds good. I can start it out. I mean, the Perfect Jean is a high quality, affordably priced, super stretchy, awesome, nut uncrushing jean. That's basically what we're going for. We're freeing up the boys. That's basically the concept. And I mean, in terms of how it started, I do have a previous background in apparel. In the denim space, so certainly took some time to analyze the market, see where trends were going. Just honestly visiting a factory, found this amazing fabric. Ovadia and I had sort of like met through previous projects, which we can talk about a bit. And honestly, like found this fabric, had the concept in mind, and really thought this was the best thing to go ahead and bring to market. For a direct-to-consumer test, and there's been a lot from there to here, but that's sort of where it started off.
Yeah, Ovadia, anything to add there? Your background?
Yeah, my background is in. I started my career on Wall Street, so that was kind of like finance and spreadsheets and numbers, which annoyingly is a big part of e-commerce and anything digital. But starting like probably a decade or so ago, I've been in e-commerce and always kind of focused on, oddly enough, what I would say is the easier part of it, which is not making the actual clothes, which is pretty much the hardest part of all of it. So my background and what I focus on is more on the paid social, the marketing, site, ops, finance. And Zach has been kind of focusing on the brand, 10,000 feet of the brand, but also clearly the product. So that's kind of the way that this kind of worked, is that I really firmly believe that you want to partner with a manufacturer or a wholesaler. And Zach's, like he was saying, his prior experience has been in manufacturing and kind of wholesale. So he had this great fabric, great jean, and kind of the skeleton of a brand. And we had met through some other projects, which were wrapping up. And he was like, dude, I got this jean. It's just right. Let's do it. And there's been a lot that's happened in the subsequent 2.5 years, but here we are.
Yeah. But it started off, I mean, like that initial photo shoot, right? And still some of our
Central
models
Park.
to this day, we went to Central Park, we brought a bunch of our friends, just we're gonna have a good time, shoot this product, have a lot of fun, and that's fundamentally like where it started. A great product, a bunch of our friends, and like diverse backgrounds, right? Mine in apparel, his more so, and a lot of the analytics and e-commerce side of stuff.
And I mean, most listeners of this show are e-commerce people, e-commerce marketers, things like that. If you're listening to this, you're not familiar with the Perfect Jean already, definitely go stalk their IG, go stalk their Facebook ads library. I mean, these guys do ads better than 99.9%. of D2C brands, and we're going to get into that in a second. But let's talk apparel, right? Because that's sort of what the series is about. Is what are the different quirks and intricacies and difficulties of building different kinds of brands, apparel, food and beverage, CPG, that kind of thing. So yeah, in apparel, what would you say? What is the upside of building an apparel? There's certain things that come to mind for me of brands that we've worked with, but as you guys, right? Like what is the upside? What is the, why is it? I'll say easier. What makes apparel easier than other kinds of e-commerce brands, and what makes it harder than other kinds of e-commerce brands?
Yeah, I'll say. I mean, again, my familiarity and even quite a bit of Ovadia's familiarity is in the apparel space. So, like, again, it was easy for us coming in because we had a background there. We didn't go into this with the concept that we were going to start like a brand with a collection, right? We fundamentally found a core product that we could stand behind, and sort of pretty simply test a thesis, right? So I think that was the most important thing going into it, and that's what has made sort of our growth easier, and management of the business easier, and even allows us more time to be more creative on the marketing and ad front, right? Because we're going in, we're not selling the perfect jean as a brand, we're selling the perfect jean, the product. Like, that's sort of how we think about it. A lot of the content and copy helps create that brand and supplement it, but we had this singular core great product. We started with X number of waist inseams and sizes to test it out. We've gradually expanded that in terms of sort of fits and various waists and inseams over time in relation to perceived demand. And that's what's made it easy for us to manage.
Yeah. I guess I'd add one or two things, just that some of the pros of apparel is that it is a massive market.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a lot of things that people buy more of than clothes. Maybe the benefit of the men's side is that it's a little bit underserved versus women's.
Yeah.
The flip of that is it's, men are a little bit more less particular about what they buy, but they buy less of it. So if you can hit them and say like, hey, I actually solved the problem for you, they're very receptive to it.
Yeah.
The other side of apparel that's really good is that it's sort of a consumable. You can't just buy one pair of jeans for 20 years like a mattress. The Caspers of the world have that problem. Brilliant brand, brilliant company, great product. But at the end of the day, if you only need to buy the product once every 15 years, you've almost done too good of a job. So you need to buy a pair of jeans once a year at a minimum. Mm-hmm. So that helps us once you hook the customer in. The downsides of it is that you have tons and tons and tons of SKUs because you have sizes, you have colors, you have washes. They get returned, there are damages, all that stuff. And that creates a mess of logistics and operations headaches, which we approached in our own way. But again, if you've never touched apparel before, be very wary and start small and simple, because there's a lot of bullshit that you have to figure out and learn on the way.
I think so. Yeah. So it's funny. I think a lot of marketers feel like they want to get into apparel, right? Because of the thing you said,
fashion.
Right?
Fashion.
That's how you get the girls.
In a sense, sometimes the ads are easy. The way you guys do them aren't, and the way that you guys are. I think there's actually kind of two different subcategories of apparel I can get into, but in some senses the ads are easy. If it's fast fashion, like, hey, here's the shirt. You like it? You don't like that one? How about this one? How about this one? How about that? You know what I mean? And so a lot of marketers like that, but it's like, if you're not a logistical management person, like, I'll give you an example, right? Like, how many, when you guys kind of, I don't know when you started, but like, let's say you guys have 5 products, right? Like, maybe you have more than that. But let's say you have 5 products, 5 different products, right? 5 different types of jeans.
Uh-huh.
How many SKUs is that? How many SKUs?
3,000. I'm not even joking.
No, because it's a lot.
We have 5. I mean, right now I think we have 3,500 SKUs because we have 5 cuts: skinny, slim, athletic, slim fit, and boot cut. Each one comes in 10 different colors, and then I think it's up to about 40 or 50 sizes.
Especially in pants.
especially in pants, because you have a waist, you have a length, you have a color, and you have a cut. So however you cut the cake versus even a shirt, which just comes in small, medium, large, extra large, whatever, pants get problematic. If you can solve it and you can afford to actually stock a lot of uncommon sizes, you get a lot of love from customers, because it is not easy to find stuff if you're not shaped like the average man, whatever that is.
There's a trade-off. Like, there's a trade-off there, but like, you know, again, starting out with the concept of the perfect jean, we weren't going to exclude men of certain sizes. So it is constantly a work in progress. But, you know, eventually we want to have the option to sort of dress everyone. But that results in going from 26 waist to 52 waist and from 26 to 38 inseam. So we have a couple 7-footers wearing our jeans, and, you know, quite a few guys that weigh 80 pounds and quite a few guys that weigh like 350.
Yeah. And see, so this is the challenge of apparel that I think most people don't think about. The upside, exactly what you said. You know, in a sense, it's consumable, and in a lot of times, I would actually say this: the best lifetime values I've seen, even more than consumables, is in apparel. The best lifetime value. Even it's a little bit of a cheat code, because the best I've ever seen is in baby apparel, which is like, that's even like a double consumable because they grow.
We know a lot about that. That was the previous company that I worked at, and Zach was an investor and partner, and it was called Kid Box. It was basically Stitch Fix for kids. But the whole pitch to VCs is you get it, you loop a kid in at 3 months and you've got them till they're 18 or whatever. Doesn't really play out that way, but theoretically,
sounds good as a strategy, though.
And
finding the pitch. 0 to 3
it's a great pitch, and you tell VCs, like, remember how when your kids, you know, shat in their pants and whatever, and the diaper leaked, and they were like, I remember that. And then, you know, it turns out every parent kind of experiences that and just buys clothes at Walmart because it's cheaper, but whatever, that's a different story.
No, but theoretically, you get a customer here at 18 to 25 and you have him buying jeans until he dies. Like, that's even better. And we do. We have
Levi's LTV
who are 70 plus.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
What's Levi's LTV and, you know, all that stuff. I mean, it's so I just got my uncle a pair. I just sent him a bunch of pairs. He thought it was the greatest thing ever, because he goes, listen, you know, I'm a little older, my waist is a little bigger, my butt's big. He's like, and then he goes, and I got big balls. So he's like, I don't think it's gonna fit me unless it has some elastic to it. They hang low, exactly.
Do you guys think it was a conspiracy by other jeans companies to start selling them already like ripped up and damaged so that the LTVs would go up? Because you used to buy a pair of blue jeans, they'd last like 30 years, right? Like,
I think there's a balance there, right? No one's gonna stick with that brand if they start ripping and tearing right away, right? So it's like, I guess in part, sure, but that's also like, those jeans that lasted for 30 years were uncomfortable as hell. Like,
no doubt.
Different
pair of pants. Started as cardboard. I mean, they started as sandpaper. They sort of worn down to cardboard, and then you were like just wearing them constantly.
They had a good like 1 to 2 year period.
Right, exactly. So that's just not. I mean, it's just not what people are looking for right now. But yeah, unfortunately, like, once you introduce slightly lighter weights, less rigid fabrics, they eventually do wear out. You just want to make sure that they're lasting for, you know, a good period of time, right? You got to keep the customer happy to keep them coming back.
It's an interesting. I think another very interesting element of apparel, right, is like, you do want people to buy and replenish and stuff like that, and especially if you're going into something like jeans, styles don't change all that much in jeans compared to other things, right?
Still fundamentally the same product.
It's still
same design.
So I mean, it's men's clothing compared to other things doesn't change that much.
I mean, black t-shirt,
white t-shirt,
white t-shirt.
You know, so it's
we're all
like
a bunch of idiots wearing the same clothes in the end of the day.
So like, but in apparel, it's in a very, because it's like they have to feel like you have to feel like the value proposition was right? Like when I put this shirt on, I'm like, man, I can't believe I only paid blank for this shirt. And I have to feel that for a long enough time that I'm like, that was amazing. I want more of those, right? Yeah. But it can't be so long and so good that like I never buy anymore, right? Otherwise, you can't sell me this amazing shirt anymore because you go out of business. So that's another interesting wrinkle, Carol.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think like you can't think about that too much. You have to like make the best product for a price that makes sense, and you want to make sure that it holds up to wear and tear and washing. Like you can't definitively determine exactly how many wears and how many washes it's going to take, like before the crotch blows out, or like the rib of your t-shirt ends up wrinkling or whatever else. You just have to make an awesome product.
Simply a factor like how hard the water is. Like we have really hard water where it's going to change it. So,
or what you're packing, like the blown out crotch thing.
How sweaty your gooch is. Like we can't really determine that ourselves.
Yeah, the average gooch.
Average gooch.
You guys have done a lot of. You guys do a lot of research.
We have
into
not
gooch
researched.
Sweat, right?
No.
Well, actually, there is on social media. We receive a lot of customer feedback around it. We don't take our own thermometer, but
you don't have like a container that you fill with like, oh, that's like 1 inch per hour.
I think we probably should. That would make for some good social media content at the very least. So
I can already say this is the most unique interview we've had, hands down.
This is happening, by the way. This is going to be our project next week. Gooch temperatures.
This is good. Yeah, I like it.
I think one of the things that's super interesting about apparel is there's sort of two ways about it, right? There's fast fashion, which is typically means that you, like as a brand, if you're a fast fashion brand, you don't necessarily have access to any product that someone else doesn't have access to, right? Like you don't have a corner on a certain product supply. It's sometimes like your Builts of the world will sort of, right? And so they sort of evolve, but usually where there's the other side of it, which is like, how Chubby's has done it, how you guys have done it, where it's like, let me look at one product, one thing that people wear, and figure out how we can do that better, right? So a couple different entries into fashion with background in what you guys have background in, like, was it because your background was in manufacturing and denim and that was the part of it you knew? Like this was just the natural way to get into apparel? Or was that like a very conscious decision, like we want to have an actual product advantage as opposed to just like a brand advantage?
Yeah, I'd say the majority of my expertise, I have expertise in a variety of different products in the men's apparel space. Probably most of my experience is in denim. I feel most comfortable with denim as a category. In terms of the competition that was out there, sort of the market share that we mentioned previously, the ability also just to have fun with it and be humorous, like stretch denim was something that was pretty easy to go ahead and approach with like mainstream comedy, which was great. So I think it was a combination of all of those things. And we did want to sort of make sure that the product that we were always going to start with a product, first of all. I don't think there would have ever been a chance that we were like launching a collection fashion brand, right? We wanted a thesis that we could clearly test, that we could run ads, get data back, and continue to take it from there step by step. And that's what we've continued to do. It happened to be denim because that was like the better fabric that I found at this particular factory. I have a bit more expertise there. There was a chance it could have been another category, but Chubby's was probably like a little bit more innovative, honestly, than we were in attacking like short inseam shorts. We were going after something that is fundamentally more of commodity in a more established market, and we were okay with that because of the landscape and our ability and expertise.
The main thing that you had to do was change people's mind about a product, which is the same thing Chubby's had to do, right?
Yeah,
Chubby's had to change people's mind about like, hey,
Chubby's had to create the market.
They created it.
That's a good
We had
point.
familiarity.
Yeah, that's a good
We had
Stretch
some
denim was-
familiarity. It's an incremental innovation versus kind of something that was a little bit more fundamental. So I would give Chubby's credit for that for sure.
Yeah.
But I think you need both the product and the brand. Like if you just have a product and no brand, then you're playing an Amazon game, and that's great. You can make a ton of money doing that. If you just have a brand and no product, then you're playing nothing. Like a brand is meaningless. A brand is a story. It's nothing. You can't sell it unless you have a product.
Yeah.
Like
I got you.
everything about the success of this business comes down to the fact that people love the jean. Period. Like, sure, the ads are great. Sure, we're having fun. Blah blah blah. If people didn't love the product and there wasn't a market for it, like your ROAS is always zero if no one buys it. No matter how good the ad is, it makes no difference. So you need something that people like and will buy more than once. And like that's the simplest, easiest, like most basic truth about retail.
Yeah,
I think that's a good outlook on it. I mean, I think we've ran into a few brands that make the mistake of like worrying about brand too early. And Zach, one of the things you said right at the top was like you guys were selling the Perfect Jean product, not the brand. Especially when you launch. I think that's a responsible way to go about it, you know?
Yeah,
for sure. Brand is about distribution, but product is about selling. So
well, you just can't assume that something that you've sort of created in your head is going to resonate with customers, right? Like if you have knowledge about a particular product and you have a good way to deliver it to a customer, there's a degree of confidence there that you'll be able to succeed on the basis of the quality of that product and the price point. I don't think we actually we didn't fully determine our quote unquote brand, right, until we had a decent sized audience. We were sort of responding to them. We knew humor would always be a part of it, right? That was always there.
Controversy, being loud. We knew we wanted to be loud.
That's one of the pieces of advice we've given several times on this show is, you know, establish your brand identity through performance. Like find out what's working and be like, clearly this is kind of what we've developed as the brand identity. Don't decide like, well, we really want to be like this and then just chase after that come what may, regardless of results. Doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I'm on the record of saying repeatedly, this notion that there's some distinction between brand and performance is totally artificial. If I'm being cynical, it's really because brand marketers are protecting their jobs. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's important to have a brand. But the reality is there's no distinction. And in the end of the day, it's all marketing. You can choose how you want to market, but if you don't sell, why are you in retail? So if your brand is the most brilliant thing with the most greatest brand book and colors and copy, and you do all this stuff right, but your product doesn't sell, who cares? Then go write a book and, you know, go paint. It doesn't matter. If you're in this business, you're in the business to sell product. And whatever the best way to sell product is, who cares? But the distinction between the two is false. You need to do both. What does a brand really mean? And who cares? It's kind of like it's an identity. It's something we chose to be very flexible about what our brand is. You can see it's not like, we do know that it's not a hyper visual brand. It's not like we don't have a graphic designer like sitting around constantly fiddling with emails. Like we don't do that. It's like our brand is about engaging customers, telling them what our product is, convincing them to buy it or try it, really not buy it, but try it. And kind of just having a good time with it and having that come through. I think, you know, we always from the beginning felt it was very key for us to have fun with it and for our personalities and the team's personality to come through. Like that's the real thing. Make sure people know that they're engaging with people, not with some like brand PowerPoint. You know, that's always consistent. Like who gives a shit? Like
and then
do what works, do what resonates.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then the anti-toxic masculinity portion became a pretty big part of it, and a lot of that honestly was first reflective of who we are, and then secondly, in response to a lot of the ridiculous comments that we didn't necessarily expect on our ad threads. So like that became very fundamental as part of the humor we were going to approach and attack. But it was very much in response to just ridiculous comments that we were seeing.
Right. To what your market was. Yeah. Dead on. Yeah. Let the performance drive who you're, the people will tell you what they want to identify with before you can. I most often see, and we're kind of going down this rabbit hole. I most often see the predetermined brand play in, VC backed, venture backed type brands. And I don't know what your guys' is. Maybe you are, but that's where I most often see it, where it's like you got, that is how you sell the brand without a product, right? The product that sells, it's like you sell it to investors, so you sell a belief, and yeah,
the Insta blend they call it.
It's just a different way to do business, I suppose. You can probably see that way as well. But
yeah, I mean, it worked for some.
Yeah, I think it sort of reflects though the VC mentality overall, right? Like they don't need to succeed on every project, so if they're investing in consumer brands, they can invest in a series of different brand theses and be like, if one of these really takes off, this works fine for our portfolio, right? But that as an operator, it doesn't really I wouldn't take that approach as an operator.
Right. Yeah. Unless that's
a very important distinction what VC motivations are versus operator motivations are. Like, we operate this business to be profitable and pay bills and make money, and it's not necessarily about being $1 billion brand, because we know that we have 10 in our portfolio and 9 will lose and 1 is going to cover the rest of them.
Right.
So we're not spreading our bets on this particularly. So we have a very different motivation. We didn't take really investment. We have no outside investors. It's all kind of self-funded by parent companies, so to speak. But it was started with a really very small and reasonable seed investment, and we just always committed to saying it's either profitable or it's not. And if it's not profitable on the first order, we'll shut it down. It's not worth it. We're not playing the betting game. And it worked out. And we kind of just bootstrapped it and started small, and it grew. But we're not looking to be $1 billion brand. If that turns out to be the case, phenomenal. But it's not the goal. It's just kind of roll the dice and react to it as they fall.
Yeah.
So I want to hit on a few things that I usually hit on in this series of building a brand. And the first is the intricacies of apparel, which we've talked about. The second is I think, there's this tendency to hear these case study podcasts or these how this brand built podcasts, and they just end up being these case studies and these ideas this is what we want and stuff. And then some people are like, oh, I heard this person say this, I want to just do it exactly like they did. And let me tell you something, you can't build chubbies today, right? They have a moat that they have is the time period.
Different world.
You can't build chubbies today. Right? You can't build purple masks today. Not the same way. Right? Not the same way that they did. So, that's one thing I want to call out for you guys is that I think that the thing that you have that's like, hey, you know what? You can't do exactly how these guys did because you have a background, right? Like a background in a pretty complicated industry in terms of we just said, you have 5 products and 3,000 SKUs. If you are someone who doesn't have experience with that, don't just try and go do what Perfect Gene did because you're gonna run into some trouble. I want to call that out too and say you guys have built but there was some advantages in place that you guys have leveraged that they're just not available to everybody.
We have cheat codes. Honest to God, we have cheat codes we've said this before, from previous failures, previous successes, previous experience, just connections we have that are not available to everyone. I mean, we have financing that works really well for us. We both have experience kind of across a variety. We've both also been investors. We both have strong finance backgrounds. We both know what we're doing in apparel, and we've seen a lot of failures in apparel. We've spoken to a lot of people struggling in apparel, and we know a lot of people who succeed in it. It is a grind. It is hard, but when you hit it, it has a lot of upside.
Yeah.
There's no replacement for reps. You've got reps. Yep.
And the thing
We've
that
got
is
reps.
sometimes baffling to me are the people that succeed in sectors where they fundamentally like don't know their product, which I just
crazy.
don't. I mean, people do it. I've seen people do it, but it's just not. It's so distant from what we've done here, and really from what you understand. There are just so many intricacies about creating a gene. And then even as you receive customer feedback, right, you also have to weigh that against your own knowledge and understanding, right? There are little things like the depth of pockets or how long a fly is that just don't work for all people. So there are decisions there that have to be made that just require expertise. And if you don't really understand your product and market, I think you'll just have a difficult time scaling.
Yeah, at least if you're trying to be an apparel disruptor, for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some markets where it's just easier, and I can kind of think of that. But okay, but let's get into some stuff that you guys have done that others can, let's not say replicate, but like we're giving advice to people, and you're saying, hey, here, this has been a key way of this is a key element in our success, and you can do this too. I would say that the creativity and the like strategic approach you guys take to your ads. You make great ads and you put a lot of focus on it. And when I say great ads, I don't mean beautiful ads, right? I mean you make ads, get them to the product.
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
Facebook's biggest complaint about us is that we don't make any beautiful ads. I'm not even
really.
joking. They're like, you guys need to do beautiful ads. We're like, why?
Well, I want to sell.
They're like, look at what Built did. And we're like, okay.
Yeah. Do you know what Built's P&L looks like, Facebook?
I do not. Yeah, exactly. I don't either. But
yeah,
I know what our P&L looks like. So
probably fine. Built is another one where it's, you guys said at the beginning, look, the core of this works because people love this product. I would say the same thing about Built. They're probably doing okay because of that, right? But
yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, like, we do not think that we have had the exclusive formula for success in this. We have a particular way that works for us and we enjoy. Like, we would not want to be doing photo shoots where we have like beautiful, ripped, sexy men without their shirts wearing jeans. Like, that would not be so fun. We have photo shoots where people are chilling, drinking, moving around, laughing. And they're hysterical. They're ridiculous and cheap. And it's like no stress and it's great. And like we mess them up sometimes, but whatever.
I just saw Casey get so sad that he couldn't be a model for you because
dude, you could be a model for us anytime.
My abs are too good though, guys.
Abs are too good.
Yeah, we do not discriminate at all.
I was gonna lift my shirt up, but
yeah, I mean, like in terms of learnings, I guess that other people can engage with and perhaps help their businesses. I would definitely say, first and foremost, to not necessarily listen to the people commenting on your ad threads, but to engage with them in some way. And you can take certain learnings from that. Again, I wouldn't say it's necessarily listening to them, because if you were listening to them for our initial ad threads, we would have shut down immediately. We decided instead to sort of counter troll them as our form of engagement. But there are a variety of other ways to do that in other industries. I think it's important to engage with your early customers, see where they're coming from, see why they are or are not buying the product. I don't think we would have gotten anywhere without that. And, we still reply to, I'd say 99.9% of comments on our ad threads to this day.
There's an idea that we've said before on this podcast, and I don't know that everybody subscribes to this, but we talk a lot about ad creatives, right? Or just creatives. We say the word creatives. And when most people hear the word creatives, they think like that little box you put like an image or a video in when you run like paid ads. And, I'm like, hey, broaden your mind. Like, there should be some like creative throughout your whole funnel, right? The landing page, the home, like, you should have creative everywhere. The word creative means something different. I think you guys are taking that concept to like the ultimate and like replying, like reverse trolling. I mean, who does that? That like cheekiness that some brands do. I mean, that's a part of like the creative of a brand, really. The creative design, I guess, of the brand.
Well, Radio Shack does it, but maybe you guys are.
Yeah, like
if you just don't say the word brand and you don't say the word creative, it's personality.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's just personality. Like, take the word. Don't mention the word brand again. Don't mention the word creative. Don't mention the word like funnel. It's just having personality that's somewhat consistent. Like, people recognize that, and then you have to deliver a good product.
I'm going to say it one more time, but because I agree with you so much. We say that word creative so much, and some people take the whole soul out of the whole process. You're just ripping from other like brands. I'm like, hey, when does the like creative portion come around ever? Like, throw that term around a lot.
Yeah. New York Mag actually just posted this article how like brands are getting hornier. Which is great. Like, that's great for us, right? Because we have a flexible personality. We're sort of horny to begin with, but now I feel like we need to amp it up
and just be more.
The funniest thing is there was also an article about how Victoria's Secret went the other way, and everyone's like, "This sucks."
Yeah,
they're like,
"What?"
We like the fun. Like, they're like, you don't have to. You can still be diverse and be inclusive. But we like the fashion show, and we like having kind of ridiculous outfits. You don't have to take that away and just go bland.
Yeah, what people don't like is when you do that for all the wrong reasons. You do that just to be checking boxes.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk about listening to the comments. It's like, if you use that as an example, Victoria's Secret listened to the people hating on them, changed their whole thing, and actually they had a massive business because they did something. And sure, they should adjust, but they kind of reacted instead of thought through it and really engaged, and so they ended up listening to the comments, and it doesn't seem like everyone loves it.
If you really believe in all those things, why be afraid to let some personality show to begin with?
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you believe your product actually helps people? Like, do you believe that legitimately people enjoy your product, it makes their life better? Then your responsibility is to sell it as aggressively as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
And not to listen to the loud few. Right.
100%.
So let's talk tactically a little bit.
Yeah.
So you guys you guys have always had good ads, or, was it like, hey, first round was meh? Or what, like, how did this develop? I know you said, hey, we went and we did a photo shoot with our friends first time. Still, some of those are our best performing ads. Like, I guess you kind of knew from a product standpoint right away that we're like, oh, we're going to use humor. But yeah, like, how did this develop tactically? Right, like in terms of, hey, we started here. This is what we noticed, and this is the shit. People who helped you along the way. Have you brought in certain agencies, certain outside help, or developed your own internal processes for this, or what?
It's a combination of all. I mean, one thing that I think is just absolutely critical for any brand is make sure you're hiring the right marketing agency, paid social, email, everything. Make sure you're going to make a mistake, but really do your due diligence, meet the people who are going to work on the account, not just the sales guy. I mean, I make it a point to make sure that I know the CEO of the agency that I'm working with, and make sure that whoever that is invested in our account in some way. It goes true with almost any vendor that you're working with, unless it's someone like Klaviyo, where it's 100% not available and doesn't matter, which is sad. But if you have humans working with you, they're part of your team. You're responsible for a relationship with them. You're responsible to make sure that they enjoy working on your account. They're not just people on the other end of the screen that you can yell at and kind of like grind down. We work with thesis testing. Can't say enough good things about them. They're amazing. They do a lot of the heavy lifting on ad creative. We source, like, I really would say the one thing that we did that was also very not innovative. It was critical at the time, but like, we knew from the prior business that Facebook creative, you have to be flexible on. You cannot be prescriptive. You have to just try things. The initial winning ad was one of the women on Zach's team tugging on a jean, like a static image, nothing fancy. It was like the worst lit. shittiest photo ever. I mean, it's a great picture, but it's not Photoshop. It's not touched up. It's not bright. It's bland. And that won. Like, that was our $20 CPA for the first 6 months. Like, that's when we said, oh shit, we have a business here. We figured it out. And that image scaled us to whatever, I don't know, $1,000, $2,000 a day of spend. And then we started sourcing. We built creative ops, everything automated because we do not have a big team. So we automated creative ops as much as possible, like constantly getting 5, 10, then 15, 20 different creators sending us stuff. Thesis cuts it into an ad. Everything is somewhat thought out. It's not just throwing shit against the wall. We know our value props. We hammer them again and again at the agencies. They or I or Zach write ideas and scripts, and like this is kind of the general outline of what we want to do, so it's not just random. And then we iterate. And Thesis, like, I give them credit, they have a testing methodology, and it's smart and it works, and it's like, this makes sense. We test a thesis, we iterate on it. If it fails, we move on. Yeah, exactly. That was unintended, but good. We test the thesis. If it works, we iterate. If it doesn't work, we get rid of it. I mean, it was easier before. It was like the formula was UGC cut up. It's become a lot more interesting and harder. I think TikTok has thrown a big wrench into a lot of creative because it's a radically different style and a different type of ad unit. And we're figuring that out, but it's the same fundamental process. It's like what works, what doesn't work. And the other thing that we do that I think is easy for us is because we don't have anyone telling us how much money we need to make or how much revenue we need to hit. If shit's not working, we scale it back like dramatically. Like we've spent $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a day, and 2 months later we're spending $5,000 a day, and that's just to protect cash and be smart about it. And it doesn't really matter because we don't have a lot of overhead. So most of our costs are variable. If we sell at an X ROAS, we make money. If we sell below that, we do not make money, and it's that simple.
And then in terms of just like choosing some of these vendors or third parties to work with, 3PLs as well, right? Like, it's useful to speak to some people like us that have failed miserably in a whole series of projects before succeeding. So like, don't just speak to the successful people that have only started one business, because they'll have a set series of vendors, most likely, or third-party providers that they've worked with before. Right, and they just assume they're the best. Like, speak to people that have tried and tested a lot of different avenues and, like, not always done well with them.
That what you guys are talking about is not something that's new. Like, this is stuff that works in life, but sometimes people forget these things when it comes to e-commerce. Like, I mean, you guys are saying it in kind of a different way, really, but, like, you learn more from your failures than you do success.
100%.
But people don't always like to think about it like that.
I ask every single agency or vendor that we work with that's like a serious company. I was like, I want to speak to someone who churned from you. Most of the time they say no. And then I say, no problem, we're out. And they go, what do you mean? And I say, I want to speak to someone who fired you, basically. And I want to know why they fired you and see if it was a good reason or not. And I'm like, I'll give you the flexibility to pick someone. Yeah. Like, so, you don't have to pick your worst client ever, but if someone's unwilling to let me speak to someone who fired them, it makes me nervous. I want to know why. Doesn't mean I'm not going to pick you. I just want to know why other people don't. Or if they won't do it and I still want to work with them, I'll hunt down someone who fired them and find out why. Like, you got to know both sides of it.
Yeah, no, I actually like that as a policy, right? Like, when you refer me to somebody who churned, right? Like, and honestly, Casey and I are agency guys. You guys know, and as you say that, it's like, if you give me the flexibility to pick someone, of course I can refer you to someone who fired us that isn't going to have bad feelings about us, right? So I don't think it's too big of an ask, honestly.
Yeah, it's not crazy.
No,
and it's like the other thing that I think is important for people to think about is the term of your contract. It's like, I do not believe in signing 12-month contracts on anything. Like, it's a hard, fast rule. Sometimes it'll be 3 months, but really we don't go more than 3 months because you don't want to be locked in. And I tell anyone that we sign more than a 3-month contract with, if I'm not happy, I'm going to break the contract. And they usually choke a little bit. And they're like, what do you mean? You can't break a contract. And I'm like, and it happens. And it's like, I'm sorry.
if you want.
We work with someone. we work with someone, and I just broke the contract and I signed an NDA, so I won't say who, but they foundationally changed their product. Like, it ceased to work for us. And I was like, you guys changed it. I don't want to work with you anymore. What do you mean? And they're like, no, but you have a contract. You have to buy it out. And I was like, you're out of your mind. But like, keep your flexibility. Things change, things break. Just like, make sure you're flexible, and the people are working for you and you're not working for them. Like, it's pretty important, because protect your cash. It's like,
I mean, I like 2, 3, and 10. We're on the agency side, right? So like a lot of the stuff you're saying, I'm aligned with. I agree with. How do you, and so this is kind of a, down a rabbit hole kind of question, but and I think we were talking off camera about this, the agencies that work with you guys and have worked with you for a long time, they enjoy working with you, right? Like, you guys are good clients to work with. So talk about that too, because I think that a lot of brands, and of course, as an agency person, I'm like, I think a lot of brands need to hear, here's how you actually be a good client of an agency, right? And be mutually successful together. Thoughts there?
I mean, you're when you think about Facebook ads, it's like so simple. The agency that you work with has your credit card and is spending thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars a day. And you better make sure that those people, like, are invested in what you're doing, that they don't think you're an asshole, that when you have thoughts and ideas, you can go to them. When you need to, like, yell at them a little bit, that it comes from a place that's real and, like, respectful. And most important, that, like, you're talking the same language and you're on the same page, because it is very easy for, like, you guys know this, if people who are working at an agency have a very hard job, you're responsible for performance, you're responsible. I mean, like, I tell the guys this, like, not in a while, because we get it, but, like, you're basically paying people's paychecks. Like, if you guys screw up Facebook ads for 6 months, people lose their jobs, and, like, people, like, that's just how it is, because brands fail, and, like, that sucks. But they're your teammates. They are not your vendor. They are your teammates. You just want to work well with them. You need a good relationship. You can feel free to change around account teams if it's not vibing. But oh wow, Zach, we lost Zach. But it's so critical, because you're also gonna have to ask favors, and sometimes people need to work weekends, and sometimes people just need to hustle on shit. And you want to be able to go to someone and say, hey, we have a good relationship. I need a solid here. It's true on the warehouse. It's true on the agency side. It's true with anyone you're working with. Healthy relationships really, really work better than kind of just bossy, do this, better ROAS. Like, what are you going to really do? You need to work together.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just apart from, like, the human element of just having good relationships with people you work with, I think alignment is, like, kind of bringing it to the business. Like, what are the metrics we're all looking at? Are we aligned on everything? I think that is of the utmost importance. And that can kind of make sure that some of those things don't get out of hand, because I think we've all seen that from both sides, whether you come from agency or the brand side. We've all seen people who suffer from that, like, the grass is greener on the other side kind of thing, where you go like, oh man, I got to get out of this agency. I just want to be internal. It must be so easy. Or somebody with an internal brand's like, man, I should just work for an agency. All you have to do is XYZ. Like, it's just never the way we think it'll be on the other side.
Yeah. Dead on. So
I lost you guys for a minute. I don't know.
We're
good. We're still good here. I think we're good.
We're still recording and going through. But anyway, no. So that's a good conversation, right? Because it's like, we don't talk about it very often. As an agency, it's like this weird topic to approach, like, hey, here's how to be actually like a good client and have a successful relationship with an agency, because as an agency, it's hard for us to be the ones that says that or say that, right? Kind of starting to wind down, wrap up here. So one thing I like to ask every guest is, what do you think right now, Zach? Since it looks like Avadia, I think his device was dying, which is why I put that into the chat.
Maybe that's what's going on. I started fiddling around, but my device was all right.
You can re-add him to the stream.
Am I back? I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was me or someone else, but
you did. I don't know if the device good. Your device.
I got 37%. I got the juice. I don't know what happened.
You got juice. All right. So one thing I like to ask all of our guests is, what is something that right now, today, Perfect Gene is doing really, really well? And what is something you guys feel like you could be doing better, and that is important to actually do better? Like, we're not doing this well enough, and it is important.
TikTok.
You're not doing that. That's the answer.
I don't know if anyone's really doing it well. I mean,
that's number 2. We're not doing it well.
No.
Yeah. And it
I don't know how to
seems
do it.
somebody is. Yeah. I can confirm there are brands doing well on TikTok.
Yeah.
True.
So I'll just say this. I've been on a rant about this because we wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars last year and this year on it, where we didn't have the ROAS, and I think we made good ads. And we just had a few like good friends look at it, and they're like, "Oh, you spent your money too soon." And I was like, "What does that mean, too soon?" I was like, "So then I'm just gonna wait until everyone else is showing good ROAS. I don't need to be first to platform for like parity with Facebook, but like." There's obviously a billion some odd people there, and we're giving our data to China anyways, so we might as well make some money on it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, I don't. It's a renewed focus now that I've heard. I literally asked every D2C marketer and agency over the past 3 months, do you have a good enough ROAS on TikTok? Everyone hemmed and hawed and said no, and the brand said we pulled back spend. Every single agency CEO said, "Oh yeah, it's the best thing ever. You should be spending money there." And I was like, the incentives are not aligned here. Something's funky. But like there's a billion people there. I have like dumb theories on why it's not working so well.
Yeah.
I also think that a lot of people have found like 5 winning ads that ran for 7 days or 2 weeks, and their total revenue over total investment is actually miserable. And I don't think they're thinking about it that way, because I think a lot of people have boards and bosses who are saying, you better make TikTok work. So they're figuring out how to tell the story that TikTok is working. But I know that some people are having success. I do not think there is broad success in men's apparel or generally in apparel. I don't think there's broad success in D2C. I think success there is an outlier based on the conversations I've had. I know some people are winning. I wish I was one of them, but we have not cracked the code yet. But we will continue to try.
I have lots.
Feel free to pitch us on it, John.
Yes.
No.
I just gave you a layup. I just gave you like the alley-oop.
Yeah, you lobbed it for me. Here's my problem as an agency person is that like I sometimes feel like I'm about to give myself like one of those humble brag compliments. I sometimes feel like I'm too honest, and I literally mean that. Like sometimes I say the thing that like doesn't get me more business, right? Like because I'm like that's my opinion. So you're not you actually a lot of what you said is right. So here's a couple things with TikTok. First of all, success there. I've not seen. Okay, there's like one case I can think of a brand that gets like very consistent success on TikTok. But by success, what I mean is on like a clicks basis, it drives a similar ROAS to Facebook at about 1/5 of the scale. Okay. So solid supplemental channel, but Google, YouTube. I mean, YouTube, so much more opportunity. And I don't know if you guys do YouTube, so much more opportunity there, right? For instance, So then here's another success metric. There are other brands that sell higher ticket things that take multiple touches. And TikTok is a good first touch point. And by any way you track multiple touch attribution, which is hard, MTA tracking is hard, but like there are some brands like, look, no matter how you cut it, this is a good first touch point. It contributes, right? It has, but we can't scale it independently. Number 3 scenario is exactly what you said, where probably, somebody's going to come at me and say like, yeah, well, you suck at TikTok if these are your numbers. But like 90%, 9 out of 10 ads, maybe 19 out of 20 ads you launch just aren't that good, right? Like they just don't perform. Right. And I mean, for some brands, it's probably 49 out of 50 or 99 out of 100. But that like one will like really slap and it'll scale hard for 7 days, like you said. It'll drive a lot for 7 days, and then you're just in this cycle of test. Oh, that one slapped, go, right? And then there are some brands that get that to happen on a semi-regular basis, right? It's every month or 2 months or 3 months or something like that. But yeah, so those are the 3 scenarios for success.
No, I think what you said makes sense. I think like it's an interesting question. There's 2 things with that I would say, or 3 things. One is contrast to Facebook, whatever, 10 years ago when it was young. You could just throw shit at Facebook and you were making bank, 5x ROAS, 10x ROAS, bananas, because no one else knew about it. TikTok has a very different dynamic as a new ad platform where I really don't think that TikTok itself has nailed the ad unit, the algo, and it is not like it is an amazing platform. It is not prime time for ads yet. So I am really thinking hard about, do we want to be one of those brands that has to test 49 assets to find the winner? That seems like we didn't build our creative ops to produce that much creative. We do not have a team of 10 creatives. I don't want to hire 15 agencies. It's just getting into be a bigger bet than we really want to make. So I sort of, if the ROASs are at best parity with Facebook, I'm very happy to wait until the platform matures and it's kind of like a little more consistent. I want to sleep well at night and not worry if our through 2,500 or 5K or 10K a day TikTok spend is going to lose us 100 grand this month. Like, I'd rather spend the next 6 months making brilliant YouTube ads than making TikToks. Probably a controversial opinion, but I just think there's way more scale. I also just see how good Google's algo has been at targeting. Like on some level, fundamentally, the best ad platform is the one with the best pixel penetration. And if you're talking about pixel penetration, it's Facebook and Google. And then it's who has the best machine learning and audience targeting and who's getting around privacy stuff. And I don't know that TikTok's there yet. Not for nothing. I think there actually is a lot of risk that TikTok gets somehow politicized, but we'll see. So I don't know. Like, Google and Facebook are here to stay. Just worth investing there.
If the rest of your Google strategy is strong, right? Like if you have, we get really great results and we can scale on, PMax and shopping and even maybe display, discovery, whatever. And YouTube is like, it's a great opportunity to scale.
Yeah,
that's the struggle with Google is oftentimes it's really good returns, but it's tough to scale.
Tough to scale.
Campaigns aren't going to have as good of last click attribution as like your shop campaigns, but it feeds it does have better last click attribute, it does have good last click attribution, and it really directly and noticeably feeds the other Google type campaign types.
100%.
So
100%. It's so important to look at Google on, like, we look at Google first of all in platform, then we look at Northbeam, first touch, click only, click and view. Like, none of them is right. It's just different dimensions to get a sense of what's going on.
Let's just say you want your data to be a Rubik's Cube, right? Like you have to be able to look at it different ways. All right. What's something you do?
Exactly. There's no right answer.
Yeah. You don't do TikTok well. What do you?
We're pretty self-deprecating. We do nothing well.
Yeah. Nothing.
Nothing. We do nothing well.
You uncrush people's nuts well. You're good at.
We have a good.
Yeah, that we do.
Yeah.
We ship a good product. We get it to their door, by any means possible. I wouldn't say we necessarily do that well because we fall victim to the carriers. So even that part can be a bit of a struggle.
I would, but if we have to brag, I would say, given that we have no full-time logistics person, I think our logistics work fairly well relatively, but it's such a pain in the ass. We work with a 3PL called Mason Hub. We like them a lot. They could be cheaper, but what am I going to do about that? But we have no full-time logistics person. So, I don't know. We want to hire someone to manage them and deal with that shit. And they just do a good job. So we're pretty happy about that. Oh, we're very proud of our returns. I'll say that.
Oh,
good with returns. That's important. I just spoke to a brand, like a $100 million brand, and they're like, we don't do exchanges. It's too hard. I'm like, that's idiotic. We do thousands of exchanges a month. It's just free money.
I mean, it seems like you have to if you sell jeans. You know what I mean?
It's impossible. We sell stretchy jeans.
You guys
it's impossible to get the fit right every time.
Impossible.
Every customer, it's just not a possibility.
I'll brag for you guys from a marketing standpoint. You guys do Facebook, Instagram ads really well. And we've said it throughout the whole time, but I can't stress it enough. Like, you guys are essentially built on one channel, and then, you've expanded, right? You have
Yeah.
probably retention channels. You've expanded to Google, but it was like, hey, this
Lost
whole thing
you guys
is
again.
profitable from order one. And the reason it was or has been
Yep.
is because you guys are just really good at understanding that platform and reaching people, getting their attention and selling them on that platform. I would say that you're good at that. That's something you're doing well. All right, so wrapping up here. Last thing we do is we do a little parting shot. I think I skipped it in an episode just barely, but we do a little parting shot. So basically, it's kind of like, hey, you know what? Like throughout this conversation, what has occurred to you? What is, if you're going to kind of say, hey, most important thing, if you don't learn anything else listening to this episode, if you don't learn about Gooch Sweat or anything, then learn this. We'll let both of you take a shot at it.
All right, I'll go with the parting shot. Let's see here. I mean, I think overall, reflecting on the discussion, again, I think it's very important to, again, which I mentioned before, speak with people that have both failed and succeeded in various avenues, people that have experience both running aspects of their company in-house and working with third-party providers, and then ultimately having an open mind in terms of working with those providers, working with whoever's running your ads, working with who's ever running the 3PL. I mean, hopefully you're working with people with more expertise than you that can teach you a few things, and don't ultimately like hold on too strong to your premonitions or thoughts. Like there are always people that can do things better than you can. And have more expertise, more time in the space, and just take the time to listen to them.
Very
All
nice.
right.
Avadia, you're up.
Jackie Carl,
I didn't hear the question. I dropped off.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, really, 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 e-commerce is a grind. There's so many little things you have to do right, and not just right. You have to do it well. Try to pick a product that you enjoy, work for a brand or create a brand that you're having fun with. There's some passion. Don't take it so seriously. At the end of the day, you're just selling shit. It's like a very great job if it's working, and it's kind of the worst thing ever when it's not working. So make sure that you're enjoying what you're doing, because you need to put a lot of energy into it. Make sure that you enjoy the people you work with. Make sure you know your cash. I think that's also like pretty much the most important thing, and you're aware of what's happening to your bank account, because when the cash runs out, when the Wi-Fi runs out, you turn off the internet. But yeah, it's really like this game requires a lot of passion and energy and hard work, and it's a grind. The rewards are really great, both financially they can be great, and also just it's very fulfilling to do something and kind of build a machine that works and runs. But make sure you're having a good time and there's some passion, because if it's not, it really sucks.
I love it.
Yeah.
I ran track in college and it was All-American. And I would say this about anything. It was, it's the most important thing in the world to you when you're doing it. Yeah. And, but a friend of mine used to say like, hey, let's not take ourselves too seriously. Like, don't forget, we're just running around in circles here.
That's a great analogy.
It's life. It's life. That's great.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, thanks so much for being on, guys. It's been a lot of fun. Casey, say all the YouTube things.
Modern Commerce, thank you for joining us on the channel today on another one of our interviews. We really appreciate it. Please drop a comment in, hit that like button if you liked the video, hit the subscribe button so that you're one of our subscribers. YouTube uses that to help send our videos to the right kinds of people so that it can, hack that algo. Hit that bell icon to get notifications about whenever we drop new content onto the channel. And as always, until next time,